if you had all the trappers in the country sitting before you, what do you tell
That is an excellent question, and I have not given that a second of thought.
them? Yeah, I didn't warn you about that one because that's the one you'd spend too much time thinking about.
Be aware of yourself. Be aware of what you present as a trapper to the general public. Be aware of how you communicate with other people. Recognize that every time that you are a trapper, you represent to a lot of members of the public, all trappers in North America. So with trapping, there's a lot of responsibility. I know it's very frustrating for us because in a lot of cases, we as trappers have lost a lot of things that I did when I started trapping 15 years ago are illegal now because of various lawsuits from anti-trapping groups. The public is getting further and further away from growing up on the farm and understanding wildlife management, and that is going to be a challenge. I think in the past, probably starting in sometime in the 1990s, you had more of an activist animal rights movement. It seems to me that as general society, that is kind of becoming a little bit less, having less of an effect on general society as it did back in that time. And the reason for that is not a good one. I don't think it's because people are having a better understanding of wildlife management. I think it's because the public is becoming more apathetic when it comes to wildlife, meaning the general public just doesn't interact with wildlife and doesn't really care, about what happens in a population of coyotes and deer, for instance. So we're battling. What we're battling is not necessarily. Although this is a challenge of trapper being considered the bad guy, the biggest hurdle that I think we face as trappers is nobody knows what a trapper is anymore in a lot of cases. So I would say just recognize that whether you like it or not, anybody who sees you trapping or knows that anything about you being a trapper, you are representing trappers as a whole. So think about that and consider it. And then, don't be afraid to share trapping with other people. Our biggest competition now is society as a whole, and trapping, becoming less and less relevant in society. So, yeah, sure, there's potential for competition from other trappers if you introduce people to trapping, but that's really, really minor. We got to think big picture. Overall, the more people that are involved in trapping and spreading the word about trapping, it's a huge plus.
Yeah, that's pretty sound advice. I've asked that question a few times, but I think you probably answered it about the best I've ever heard.
What's your answer? Have you been asked that before?
I have different times, and my answer is never maybe as well said as what you just said, but I've always thought it. I'd say I second what you just said. The first time I asked that, not long after I'd taken over Trappers World, Dave Solomon was the president of the NTA, and I had asked him that question, and I can't remember exactly how he worded it. But generally speaking, most people come back to some similar response to what you have just said, but not worded the same.
Yeah.
I remember Dave kind of put more of an emphasis on belonging to the associations, but I think ultimately, I know I can't remember who else I asked that question to, but I mean I think that's the key, and that's something. I mean we could talk a whole nother 2 hours just about. The societal, the way that the public and society views trapping, and the fact that like so many things have happened that have put trapping in the public eye in a positive light, yet still most people are too busy to really care about managing wildlife or fisheries or like here where I live in the along the Mississippi River, there's a lot of concerning things going on in the environment as far as flooding, and I don't know if it's global warming or what is causing it, but habitat changes, erosion issues, just the water table as a whole. These changes that are they the biggest things facing society? No, but are they important? Yeah, they probably are, because even if you are in a Manhattan office building, you still need to eat and you still need to drink, and a lot of our sustenance comes back to wildlife management, and trappers are a big part of that, because the trappers are kind of like the protectors of sheep, cattle, croplands. That comes back on trapping a lot of times. So it is very vital and very important. And having that connection with the public, I think, like you said, as a trapper, when we meet somebody, we can't be ashamed to be a trapper. We don't need to keep it a secret. And a lot of times, meeting that person, they have never met a trapper before and may never meet a trapper. So you want to make sure you give them an impression, so that when the word trapping is mentioned, they think, oh yeah, I met that guy, or I met that lady, and they were nice. The trappers weren't bad. That lady was real friendly, or that guy, he was a good dude.
Yeah.
We want that image. And so that's, I think that's the kind of the, I've never been one to say we need to save trapping. Trapping doesn't need to be saved.
Right.
I don't think that's the right mentality to have. It's not something we're saving. It's just something that, and we're not necessarily promoting it, but it's something we need to be an advocate for. And I think that's exactly what your answer was, and it's kind of fascinating. Like I said, we could talk for another hour just about that, and
Yeah, I think the big thing is to be aware of yourself and how you're representing yourself as a trapper, because I just think back to when I was a young guy, when I was a teenager, when I was in college. I think back to some of the things that I did and the way I acted, and I realized that a lot of it was just not recognizing how people view you. In a lot of ways, we think, oh yeah, I'm proud to be a trapper. Don't be ashamed to be a trapper, but don't be like blatantly, blah blah blah, this is my right and you can't tell me what to do, because that doesn't work either. And if you make yourself out to look like a jackass, people nowadays, what seems to be happening is it's less about what people hear, information that they hear, and it's more about how you make them feel. Everybody has their own truth and how they feel about something. And it's really important, because if I have an interaction with someone that doesn't know trapping, they're not going to remember. If I try to teach them, you tell them, okay, this is what we're doing, this is why we trap, here, bang, 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 give them a bunch of statistics. They're not going to remember that. What they're going to remember is, how did this guy treat me? What was my interaction? Did I get a good feeling from that guy, or did I get a bad feeling? And I think a lot of times we just can't force this thing. Just recognize how you're interacting with people, and just make it a good thing for trapping as a whole.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I mean, I don't know of a better way of promoting trapping than by doing that. I can't think of one.
Yeah, and we have all kinds of tools now. The internet, those guys out on Instagram posting photos, and Facebook. Again, be aware of that, because you have the ability to really promote trapping in a positive way, or maybe make some mistakes that cause people to have some heartburn about trapping. And also, just another quick thing, the crazy people that give you all kinds of wild comments about how evil you are and you're going to burn in hell because you're a trapper and this and that, and you love torturing animals, just ignore it. Don't even. I don't respond to them. I know some people do, but those are a small vocal minority of the public, and don't let it get to you.
Yeah, you can't, and that's just it. You can't. just like most hardcore trappers would never be converted to be anti-trappers. People that are sending those kinds of crazy comments, they're not being reasonable. So you can't really even engage in a conversation there. But most of the general public is you probably have in the country, there's just a very, very small percentage of people that are actually trappers, and there's a very, very small percentage that are anti-trappers, and then the bulk of the majority of the public, they don't even think about it on a daily basis, and those people, for the most part, are reasonable people, and like you say, you got to promote an image that gives them a positive feeling when they think of that word, in the event they do think of it.